Welcome to Lead Live, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
Hello, everyone. Greetings. Wherever you're at on the globe, we appreciate you. We value you here at Lead Live, and we're very grateful that you choose to tune in order to leverage the content we provide. We'd like to believe that we are demonstrating our values and our values that are reflected in a particular kind of leadership mindset that allows us to advance forward, to progress, to create solutions, even to problems that many of us don't even know exist, that we need to have solved. To demonstrate excellence, and not just excellence in the workplace or in our businesses or for other people, yet demonstrating excellence for our individual lives. What does that mean? Oftentimes we think in terms of knowledge, we think in terms of performance of some kind, whether it's intellectual, physical, emotional. At the core of our spiritual well being, definitely, is our mental, our physical, our emotional well being. And I'm talking about something that complements all that. And that is the excellence that is a reflection of us planning for our well being, planning for our ability to take care of not only our own lives, those lives who are within our care or who are in our care, our children, our mates, our elders, parents, grandparents, other loved ones. Are we prepared for the kind of emergencies that are emotionally crippling sometimes? Without a doubt. And definitely can be physically devastating, at least temporarily, if we're fortunate to be able to get beyond it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the various things that happen to us. And yes, some of them we can mitigate. Others, they just happen because it's part of living this human existence. And so, what are some of those things? There are accidents. We're being responsible. We are being thoughtful. We're literally ensuring that we protect the safety of not only our own lives, those we care about, and quite frankly, we're being responsible for others we would otherwise not even meet. And so we're driving safely in all that that means. Whether we're in a vehicle, we're flying an aircraft because we're a pilot, and transporting many lives on a regular basis, or we're in a workplace and we're being mindful of our physical state, healthy states, in order to add value to the states of others. Physical, emotional, definitely intellectual well being. And yet, we have accidents. They happen. And sometimes they're crippling accidents. I just saw a young man, a brilliant young man, and he was just hit by a drunk driver less than a week ago, or maybe a week and a half ago, actually. The good news is that he lived. Too many folks don't survive a drunk driver hitting them and leaving the scene. He survived. Yes, he's still in pain. He survived. And he's able to continue to function, continue to bring an income. And yet, too many in a vehicle accident caused by someone else, like a drunk driver, or even at a temporary lapse in judgment, or they had a crisis physically and helped cause an accident, or was the cause of an accident. Too many end up in the hospital. Too many end up crippled, at least temporarily. And hopefully all of them recover, but not all do. But whether they recover immediately or later or not at all, something happens in that transaction. So whether it's an accident, whether it's cancer, devastating cancer, whether it is, well, I don't know what cancer is not devastating, a major respiratory disease, a heart attack. Wow, we could think of too many things, and I don't want to bring up all of them to give too much life to them. And yet those things happen. When they happen, are we prepared for the fallout? Not just the emotional fallout, that's real. And yet some of us are so well wired, whatever that means, that we're able to look at it, see it as a challenge, and meet the challenge, whatever that entails. And then others of us literally, absolutely require attention, support, engagement, love, unconditional from other people, and not just from those who are the medical leaders who provide us with invaluable support, the vast majority, that is. Do we know how to handle those circumstances, especially when we are no longer able to work, or we're still working, but we're off work, and the compensation we get from disability income is 50%, 75% at best, maybe, of our income? Are we able to survive? I was talking to a client yesterday who indicated just that. When that person had to be on disability and had only had the limited amount of dollars, was barely able to survive. I'm talking in more objective and third person context because I'm very careful to guard against sharing confidential information about clients. And yet, too many clients experience having to somehow figure out how to use their existing savings or borrow money, or worse off, change their lifestyle dramatically, assuming that they're still able to live in a home, move from their circumstances in order to survive the, the demands, the cost, the expenses in order to recover, creating more stress that actually undermines the healing process. Well, we already know the number one cause of disease, stress. And then, of course, we know the number one cause of stress is a lack of financial resources. We'll come back to that later. But for now, let's talk about today. Our topic is really about living benefits. Living benefits. I remember talking to someone, and that person thought that living benefits is about, having an insurance plan that has a death benefit, and when you die, it helps the survivors survive that major transition, the loss of a loved one. And others just think it's about living now and benefiting from life now, which we value. But we're talking about something that's a little bit more specific, that's invaluable, and too many don't even know it exists. So I want to ask you, are you safeguarding your life with living benefits? Definitely expect the best, yet prepare for the worst in order to experience better conditions. That's what living benefits allows us to do, is plan for contingencies, especially crises that may affect our ability to survive. Money affects our ability to survive. Having adequate resources, financial resources to purchase the things that we need, to sustain the things that we have that are critical to our well being is essential. So, did you know that you could protect your life and your assets? The very things that you benefit from, leveraging a type of protection called living benefits. Well, actually, some of you may already have living benefits. Do you? A proper life insurance with living benefits plan can ensure that you have sufficient funds, can assure that you have sufficient funds to meet financial requirements, avoiding particular disasters. Should you be unable to work or have insufficient income due to expenses, due to loss of your job, or another crisis due to a critical or terminal illness, severe cognitive impairment, or the inability to do at least two functions of the six functions considered to be normal as part of daily living, whether that's bathing oneself, feeding oneself, or dressing oneself. Even with medical insurance, large percentages of individuals suffer without having just that living benefits coverage. It affects businesses with over 48% having to close or failing due to a key employee who has a critical illness. It affects households with 60% of all bankruptcies tied to critical illness. So, what is living benefits? It protects you if you have a critical illness, if you have a chronic illness, God forbid, you have a terminal illness. It gives you some protection to be able to address the basic needs in your life, to be able to maintain your lifestyle, if not fully, to some degree, so you're not out like too many folks who end up literally unhoused because they used all their savings. They used the very resources they needed to survive in order to pay medical bills. We prefer that you're free from such worry. We want you to have peace of mind and much more, knowing that you're able to maintain a healthy lifestyle, avoid further distress in order to fully heal. And yes, I know some certain diseases people say, oh, you're not going to survive. We have too many examples. And I live knowing examples, being a living example of supposedly you're not going to make it beyond whatever that deadline someone conveys. I don't care how brilliant a doctor is, or remarkable a nurse is, and there are many brilliant doctors, many remarkable nurses, and we need them. We need the traditional, we need the non-traditional healthcare professionals to ensure our well-being. And yet they don't know the big picture. If we're going to survive a particular thing, their role is to help us live and live comfortably as long as we can. Our role is to give ourselves, equip ourselves with the tools to ensure that we can heal if we're ever in that situation, and to help loved ones do the same thing with living benefits if they're in a comparable situation. Why avoid the opportunity to fully lead our lives by protecting ourselves from what some people call inevitable? I don't call inevitable, but I call it's possible. So if it's possible that we need living benefits in order to survive, in order to sustain our lifestyles, then I say pay the marginal cost, because the cost on the other end will be much greater. And it reminds me of this metaphor that's so real. What is it? It's so many different authors have written using this metaphor, and so many leaders use it regularly. And you may have heard it, you may have used it. And that is, do you want to pay for the seeds, or do you want to pay for the harvest? Do you want to pay a tax on the seeds, or do you want to pay a tax on the harvest? So the seeds are just let's just say they're in this little bag. The harvest, oh my God, acres of growth, acres of assets, be they corn, be they kale, be they whatever they are that edifies us. Do you want to pay a tax, or do you want to pay just for the seeds? Or do you want to let someone else harvest and pay for all that? Or do you want to pay for the seeds, the taxes on the seeds, or do you want to pay for the taxes on the harvest? So whether you're talking about just buying seeds or buying the harvest, we know the big difference. Farmers know, you live it. And those of us who work alongside farmers, we understand the power of just focusing on paying taxes on the seeds versus paying taxes on all that harvest. I want you to somehow use that same metaphor. If you've not even thought of living benefits, let alone secured a life insurance policy that includes or focuses on or provides you with living benefits, to anticipate the worst, but being prepared to be healthy for throughout your life, being prepared to take care of business throughout your life, being prepared to live the lifestyle that honors you throughout your lifetime. Guard against having to declare bankruptcy because of crippling debt or due to crippling debt. Get the best living benefits policy option for you. Secure a living benefits plan from one of the top A plus rated or A rated companies that exist. I don't know if you know this. Most people don't. Insurance companies are the most secure, especially the A and A plus rated companies, are the most secure companies or organizations in the United States. And the little that I've read suggests around the planet. So that's why I have living benefits. And that's why I encourage everyone to have living benefits. Yes, I can say I'm going to use my savings, whatever it is, in my insurance account, insured account. That's something we've talked about before, and we'll come back and we'll talk about later. And yet I don't want to do that. I want to leverage my savings to not only do the fun stuff I want to do and I'm doing in life more so because I don't have a history of a lot of fun. Yeah, I used to love camping. I used to love not scuba diving, but snorkeling and just playing in the sand and all that stuff. But not enough fun. So I'm coming back to the fun. So I want to use my savings for fun. I don't want to use that for all medical expenses should I need it in the future. So that's why I have living benefits. I want to use my money to accumulate the kind of legacy that I can leave for loved ones. Should anything happen to me, I want to build the legacy while I'm alive and be able to share it with loved ones now and not wait until I'm no longer here and they get the benefit. I want that legacy to last more than one generation. It's called generational wealth. And I want within my extended family for all of us to understand the power of intergenerational wealth. I was corrected more than once. People said, "Oh, you mean generational wealth?" No, I meant intergenerational wealth. It was intentional. If we understand our interconnectedness across this planet, that we literally need everyone. And yes, I know there's stupid stuff happening where we harm each other. I'm saying let's build the base, our financial base, so we can build further our faith base, our family base, our health base, sustain it while having fun. Right? The 5 F's: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun, critical. And you can't do it without having the right kind of protection to ensure greater peace of mind. So there's something I'm going to put in the comments section, and I want you to leverage, if helpful. Want you to leverage, if helpful. And I know there's some questions that people ask in advance. And I hope I've answered some of them already. And I want the first question, which was, please describe living benefits, especially considering that person thought it was something completely different. What do you mean when you say living benefits? I'm talking about having literally funds set aside in a life insurance policy that allows you to draw on those funds should you experience chronic, critical, or God forbid, even worse, terminal illness. You don't have to exhaust your savings. You don't have to do a GoFundMe and be stressed about you're not getting enough coming in order to take care or meet the financial requirements in order to just sustain your basic life, let alone be able to enjoy the joys of life while you're working through whatever physical challenges that are there temporarily, hopefully. That's what I mean by living benefits. That's what we mean. And there's much more. And so use the link, contact us, set up an appointment. We'll give you more details. The next question is, are living benefits accumulated by saving money? Well, here's the thing. Yes. And yes. And yes. It's not as much money as you think. You want to save money and place it in the right kind of account that's structured for you to ensure that you have sufficient living benefits should something, again, God forbid, happens and you need to draw from those funds. Again, there's much more to share than that. I want to keep it simple. Remember, living benefits are about protecting you, helping you while you're alive. Think about your mortgage. Think about your auto. Think about your whatever the expenses you have every month, in addition to if you're renting, for that matter. If you've got some resource needs for your children, for your husband, for your wife, for your partner, for your loved ones, and you don't want to interrupt that investment in their lives. Well, those expenses, no one tells you how to use your living benefits when you qualify, and you have to use them. You get them based upon the details that are provided to that insurance company. And then you're able to use it to give you some level of peace of mind as you work to recover. Next question. Do employers provide living benefits to their employees? Excellent question. And so, since we can't speak for all employers, and there's a diversity of employers, be they a C corporation, an S corporation, or an LLC, or just a local mom and pop that has yet to fully structure their business. And I emphasis on, if you've got a business, you want to definitely have at least an S corp in order to take advantage of tax advantages. It's a whole nother conversation we may have here with a couple of experts to give you succinct information about that. But let's come back. So some employers do provide living benefits. And the question is, have you asked your employer, what living benefits do I have should these things happen to me? Is it enough to cover what you may experience if you look at family history and you're more likely to experience that? But that's not a guarantee that you're going to experience it. In fact, you don't want to experience those things, yet you want to protect against that. So ask him what living benefits as part of life insurance they provide. Typically, employers don't provide living benefits as part of life insurance, but some do. And perhaps increasingly more employers are. And if you're an employer or you are literally a business owner or leader of HR or some other key role executive within a business, and you want to find out more in how your organization can offer living benefits, use that link just shared. And I'm going to ask my lead behind the scenes, Jet, to share it again for those of you who may have joined a little bit later. Thank you, Jet, in advance for doing that. And so, employers providing living benefits. Question you want to ask too is if they do those living benefits, can you transport them to your next employment? Do you own those living benefits? Or are they part of a group coverage plan that when you leave your organization, whether it's through retirement or you are experiencing an upward mobility, a promotion, advancement in your career, it means that you move outside of that particular employer's operation, then you want to know, do you own it? Can you take it with you? And most of the time, people are part of a group insurance plan, or it's a plan that's facilitated by a union. It's wonderful to have it. If you don't have it, or if you don't own it, you definitely want to investigate what it means, how you can secure one for yourself. So you have it under any condition, and you're not beholden to anyone or any circumstance or any environment in order to be able to exercise the use of them. So there's something called a living benefits plan, right? Yes. And they're diverse. There's not just one kind. And that's why it's important to speak with a licensed financial professional to verify what is it so that we can confirm what you need, what you're anticipating, and look at more of your end goals in relationship to where you're at and where you want to be. Then suggest here's a viable option. And then we suggest the amount of coverage. And there's no one size that fits all, folks. There may be different, a particular employer that needs a particular set of living benefits as a blanket policy. Well, that's something for us to consider. Yet individuals have individual needs. And so we get to work with you and determine what your individual needs and then look at what's the best plan for you. There's some stellar products out there, folks. And many people think it's extremely expensive and they find out, wow, it's that cheap. Before you make assumptions, always get the facts. Get the evidence and get the evidence in writing. How do you get one? Feel free to contact us. We're not the exclusive, but we will give you good information and effective details, right? Say an effective process to ensure that you're covered right away. Our living benefits plans very expensive. I think I've just addressed that. The younger you are, the least expensive it is. And yet, people are surprised when they're my age that living benefits as part of a particular plan is not as expensive as they thought it would be. In fact, some plans offer embed living benefits and there's no extra charge. So assume nothing. If you assume anything, is that there's something likely available for you. And the question is, how soon can you get on the calendar and obtain time-sensitive information that's going to help you have the peace of mind to be able to move forward? So the key takeaways include living benefits gives you the option to use some of your life insurance proceeds while you're alive. And it could be a significant amount depending upon your need. And hopefully you never need it. And it could be part of your permanent life insurance. It could be its own package. The point is, obtain good information from a licensed financial professional. And our team would be honored to be of service to you because that's what we're about. And the good news about us, you don't pay for our services. They're complimentary. You don't pay for our services. They're complimentary. So, what else can I share with you uh, that is most critical about taking care of yourself that you don't already know? Or maybe what I do is I honor what you already know. You know that life is a temporary state for us. We don't know if we're going to be here 8 years. I'm thinking about a little boy when I was about 12 years old who died. It was the first funeral I went to. I don't know what relation, there was some relations to my family, my brothers and I to this day I don't know if he was a cousin or what relationship we had. I remember this little boy was dead. And I just couldn't fathom it because my mindset, my understanding that even though I knew death was a possibility, I was sufficiently aware to know that. To see an 8-year-old in a casket, oh my God, I was in shock. And there was no adult to talk to us about it. It was just like we're going to a funeral. So we didn't even know what a funeral was. And we show up at this funeral and just a reminder, I was reared in foster homes. So my brothers and I, in this series, at least for me, throughout my life, I didn't belong to anyone. And yet I was around different conditions, some of them horrific, some of them actually quite loving at different points in time. This was an horrific one to my spirit, and I didn't have the words to articulate because I didn't know what I didn't know. I'm not even certain I was 12. I might have been younger. And I remember it was before the age of 12. I'm looking at this casket, and then we're made more prominent. We're put up near the front of the church to, and we're taken to see the body, which made no sense to me. So we're looking at this little boy that looks like this boy is still breathing. Beautiful little boy. I'm thinking, who is this boy? No one's telling us. Why is he in this casket? Can he just get up? All those things were in my head. No rational person would say that little boy, that beautiful little boy, that gorgeous, seemingly gorgeous spirit would be laid to rest. I'm thinking about several of my foster parents, independent of what I experienced with them, and witness a couple of them, or excuse me, several of them in their casket. I'm older, much older. I'm an adult. I've gone through some maturity, our maturation process, and now I understand more about the death process. Having grieved, I still don't know what I don't know. I've read Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She was popular at that time, really researching, describing, helping people work through the processes of death. And I just remember experiencing disbelief, uh, shock, anger, uh, being resolute at some point, and then accepting whatever the process entails. I experienced that many times. And then, of course, I'm now 63, nearly 64, and I've experienced so much of that. Many folks transition. I've also experienced people who had life threatening diseases and they came through it. Some of you may be watching this. You're among those folks. And I'm so pleased that you were able to come through it. Some of those folks didn't have living benefits. And quite frankly, a number of the folks who died, I knew, did not have life insurance so that their beneficiaries could receive the death benefits. And pre-GoFundMe sites, pre-proliferation of the internet, pre-computers, just talking to people in the neighborhood, trying to gather funds to pay for burial. And then for those who had the chronic critical illness, some of the chronic illnesses went on for years, didn't have a source to rely on and had to fight through back pain and still go to work in order to not be homeless. Fight through, oh my gosh, so many different illnesses. Lupus, and having lupus and diabetes, and oh my gosh, having a leg removed, and all that, and not having anything to leverage. And yet, what I'm talking about, living benefits, has been around for a long time. Not in the form that it is now. In the form that it's now, it's quite remarkable. Different kinds of packages have been around, or plans have been around. And we want you to know you don't have to experience those situations where you're trying to figure out how to deal with stuff and you're grieving and you're witnessing the adults around you. You now are adult. Figure out how to scrape up some money from different places and different people who don't even have the resources themselves to survive in the way that allows them to thrive from their perspective. What if you just had the coverage? Diagnosed with something, doctor contacts your provider, says this person's unable to do 2 of the 6 things to sustain their life, daily living, and all of a sudden you experience the power of a living benefits package or plan. You've got, whether it's 50,000 and you needed that, 100,000, oh my gosh, 1,000,000, depending upon the nature of your plan, and you've got peace of mind. Think about a colleague whose partner, fiance, mind his own business, recovered from a challenge, driving, having a good time, preparing for the birth of his child, and being with the love of his life, gets hit, has an accident, in the hospital, in a coma. There's no good news about that. But there's a comforting reality about that, as she shared. And she didn't use the word comforting. That's my description. She didn't have to worry about trying to go out to work and address the fact that his income has not come in. She didn't have to go out there and overdo it and not be able to take care of her baby. She could receive $1,000,000 check because of the smart coverage, living benefits that allows her to take care of her household, be there for him, be there for her child. I'm looking at a picture, an old friend I met back in 2002. I don't know if you can see it. It's like a web. My last name is Webb. And on this, he on the back of it, he wrote, "The storm having passed, those who thought you were fragile and could not possibly stand your ground are now shielding their eyes from your brilliance. Tiny raindrop bursting with light, a brand new day glistening upon your every strand. New challenges and endless possibilities, all captured in your web." I had no clue what he was talking about until I did, not long afterwards. And I understood that I wasn't supposed to succeed. Not only did I succeed, I outperformed expectations. Well, there's something about having lower expectations for me because I like to hit it out the park. I don't care if you don't expect me. That's when it turns me on a little bit in a way that I don't like to be vocal about. I just silently go about just taking care of business one step at a time in order to bring home the magic, whatever that magic is, whatever the ends it is I'm looking to achieve. But as I look at this web. It's beautiful web with tiny raindrops. We have a tendency of thinking that spider web is so thin, so malleable, it could just break. And yet, heavier, dense bugs and things get in its web, allows the spider to systematically feed itself and feed its offsprings. Powerful. Well, I think about living benefits, the investment in living benefits, being that web of resource, of support. And you don't know that you need it. And you're not even certain that it's necessary. And yet, when something happens that seems to devastate you, that web of support gives you what you need in order to minimize the stressors, engage in what's necessary to recover, because you've got it taken care of. The financial piece. You don't have to worry about not being able to do A, not be able to do C. A, help take care of your family. B, ensure that you're all housed. 3, augment your income because you're receiving too few dollars, or maybe you were to begin with. D, you fill in the blank, whatever is relevant. And yeah, I know there's a lot of us who are single who choose to tune into this broadcast. You too, folks, especially you. When you need support and you're alone because people don't know you, they don't know what you need, they're not connected to you. Having those resources, all of a sudden, you have greater peace of mind too, to be able to move forward, to recover. Living benefits. Living benefits. There are there's so much about life that is beautiful. The most important thing about you is that you're worthy. You're worthy of all gifts, and it starts with you giving yourself those gifts. Gift of time, gift of reflection, gift of well-being, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Protect you. It's one of the remarkable gifts that we don't even think about often enough. Protecting self. Yes, we may protect ourselves from something that we could physically see out there. But what about protecting ourselves from the unseen possibilities? We protect our cars. Why? Because we're required to have insurance. We protect our homes. Why? Because we purchased this thing, we want it to survive as long as we're here, and we want to be able to pass it on to our loved ones. So we have renter's insurance. We've got all this stuff, we don't want to lose it in a fire. We have mortgage insurance. Because if the infrastructure breaks down, we want to be able to, have something to draw from. We use insurance to even insure washing machines, dryers. We have insurance to cover some of our jewelry. And some of us have insurance to cover the clothes we have because of our investments. We have insurance on our business. Yes, we have to have errors and omission insurance if we're in the financial services industry. For example, we have liability, other kinds of insurance with businesses. We have insurance. We have medical insurance. And many of us have medical insurance through our employer. And increasingly more of us are getting medical insurance because we're no longer in an environment where an employer pays for our medical. What's more important than your life? What is more important than your life? A vehicle, a home, jewelry? So many people, when they transitioned, whether it was a Steve Jobs who basically said on his deathbed, said, I did all this stuff, and at the core, and I'm paraphrasing and not very well, I admit, at the core, I didn't really give myself the gift. And that gift is really spending more time with loved ones. Yes, he did remarkable things, and we're all benefiting from his life. Could he have been more balanced? It's not for me to say. Would he have been as brilliant in leveraging his genius? I don't know. It's not for me to say. And I believe our lives are worth living in a way where we contribute our genius and at the same time, we give ourselves the gift of protection. Some of us had a clue long before we transitioned the importance of giving ourselves the gift of protection. We want all of you to do it and do it now. However you need to do it, give yourself the gift of protection. Now, next week, we're going to have a companion conversation, and it will be about legacy planning. And we'll ask some questions ourselves, including inviting you to ask key questions, not only about legacy planning. What really is the difference between living benefits and legacy planning? They're interrelated, folks. They're not so separate as people would like to think, nor are they the same. And yet they're critical to have in partnership. And we're going to have a remarkable attorney who himself is leading over 100 attorneys in all 50 states of these United States. So I'm so honored to be able to say that next week we're going to have a lot of substance in a short period of time. Be ready to take notes, to capture, and you'll be able to see the video more than once. This gentleman will be bringing it and bringing it big time. Legacy planning, it's part of the gift that you're giving yourself and definitely your loved ones. And not just the next generation, subsequent generations. With that, I want to thank you and appreciate you. My gratitude for you doing what's best for you so that you can thrive and impact the rest of life in ways that I think your life was designed to do. Wadum.